Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the PrimateCast. The release date for today's podcast, number 36 in our series with the PrimateCast, is Wednesday, September the 30th, 2015. Now, before going any further, I do have to apologize for the rather lengthy interim we had between the last podcast and today's. Now, if anyone paid attention, the last podcast was done with high school student Nina Negi, and for anyone interested, she is now doing very well in her new school in Costa Rica. And as for the PrimateCast, be happy to know that we are back, and we have a number of podcasts lined up for the rest of this fall. So in today's podcast, I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of Cécile Sarabian as she walks you through another episode of Conservation Voices. There's not really a lot for me to go on and on about, so I will just leave you with her, and I'll come back at the very end just to wrap things up for you.
Hello everyone, this is Conservation Voices for the PrimateCast. I'm Cécile Sarabian. On this episode, we will learn about chimpanzee conservation at the Ngamba Island Chimpanzee Sanctuary in Uganda. Last March, during the Primatology and Wildlife Science Annual Symposium at Kyoto University, I was lucky enough to meet one of the 5 leading women conservationists of Uganda.
Uganda is the source of the longest river in the world, River Nile. The source starts from Uganda. Uganda has the second largest freshwater lake in the world, Lake Victoria. It's in Uganda. Uganda has the second highest mountain with snow capped right at the equator. Uganda has 2 of the great apes, the mountain gorillas, the chimpanzees.
My name is Lilly Ajarova. I work with a non-governmental organization called the Chimpanzee Sanctuary and Wildlife Conservation Trust, commonly known as the Chimpanzee Trust, and I work as the executive director, coordinating all the different programs implemented by the organization.
How your interest for conservation and education started?
My work with conservation really started when I was 6 years old, which was the year that I started school. And my first study tour was to one of the national parks in Uganda, Mercession Falls National Park. And my first encounter with wildlife was with an elephant, a mother elephant that had given birth to a baby. It was so pretty to look at it, trying to take care of the baby. But at the same time, it looked so huge, so big. It was like a big mountain, and I was so tiny, 6-year-old, and I'm like, wow, this is giant. But what really caught my attention was that the teacher who was with us, taking us for the study tour, was taking photograph, and at some point totally got lost in what he was doing and moved closer and closer to the elephant, which didn't go very well because the elephant felt she was at risk with her baby and really charged at all of us, blew the trumpet, got mud and water and sprinkled on all of us, which was really quite scary. But I did take a lesson from it, that everyone needs their own respect, everyone needs their own space. And it's something that I have lived through with in life, but I think it was a starting point for me to know that there was something I needed to learn about wildlife. There's something I needed to follow after that experience, which I have been doing with different wildlife species, from the elephants to mountain gorillas to lions, and now with chimpanzees. My journey in terms of career really started in the tourism industry. Once I finished doing the tourism training, I started working with a tour company, and then I moved on to work with Uganda Wildlife Authority in the tourism development, and my first job was to get the mountain gorillas in Uganda organized for tourism. So I had to work with the researchers, the field staff, to get the gorillas habituated, bearing in mind that there has to be respect. So in my developing the protocol and the rules for what the tourists could do, what the guides could do and could not do, really again came from my experience of 6-year-old. Give them their respect. Yes, it's nice to watch. It's nice to observe what they're doing. It's nice to learn from them because there are lots that we can learn from wildlife, but give them the due respect. And after I got the gorilla tourism, going established, and then I worked with the researchers who were habituating chimpanzees as well for tourism. With the working with chimps in the wild, that got me really in close contact, and I must say I fell in love with the chimps, and I felt like, okay, I just needed more time, and when the opportunity to work with the sanctuary came, I thought that was it.
You insisted during your talk that education is primarily important, and that through this education and environmental program, you not only give the opportunity to the children to learn, but also to take action.
I personally believe that knowledge is very good. Yeah, and when we are talking environmental education to adults, I think changing attitude and behavior, to me, take a generation at the least. Yeah, and we don't have time for that. So to me, the target is to deal with the young people, whose mindset can still be put in the right direction at the young stage, such that as they grow up, they have the right attitude, they have the right behavior towards their natural environment. The environmental education program that we implement is not just creating knowledge, but getting these children to act. Yeah, if we are talking about soil, if we are talking about trees, if we are talking about energy, they have to be able to learn the skill of doing something about those topics. How do they improve on soil fertility? How do they best sustainably use whatever resource, the natural resource they have? They should be able to learn it now. If they can't learn to plant trees now, it will be a struggle to do it when they are adults. If they can't learn, to save energy now, it will be a struggle for them to do it. And they will not be able to do it because they will not be able to pass it on to their children as well. And then it becomes a generational problem.
In August, I took the opportunity of a primatology field school organized in Uganda to visit the Chimpanzee Trust at the Ngamba Island Chimpanzee Sanctuary and meet with Dr. Titus Mukungu, the sanctuary manager and resident veterinarian.
At the sanctuary we have 48 chimpanzees, though in 1998 we started with 19 chimpanzees. But this is a rescue and rehabilitation center, so most of these chimpanzees are orphaned, and apart from 2 that were accidentally born at the sanctuary. The chimpanzees that we have at the sanctuary, most of them come from western part of Uganda, but some came from neighboring countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo, Southern Sudan. The sanctuary is 100 acres and island, and it has 95 acres which are used by the chimpanzees during the day, and the 95 acres are divided into 3 enclosures: the dawn, the dusk, and the forest enclosure. The forest enclosure is where they stay during the day playing, and then the other two enclosures, the dawn and the dusk enclosures, are used for integration purposes. As a sanctuary, we have projects that we are doing. One in the communities neighboring the sanctuary, but also in the communities under our field program, because we also have, we realized that most of the chimps come from western part of Uganda, and their areas, their forests that are not protected by the government. And so these forests belong to private forest owners who use these forests for various activities. They clear them for settlement, from culture, and so the chimps remain with no habitat, and this has increased the human-wildlife conflict in these areas, and so there was a lot of inflow of rescued chimpanzees from these areas. So as an organization, we had to start up a project in western part of Uganda, specifically in Hoima, to encourage these private forest owners to conserve the forests for the chimpanzees, but also for their own benefit. And so in those communities, we also reach out to the communities nearing those areas where we are working, especially to schools, to encourage the younger generation, because they are the future conservationists, to conserve the forests and also to love chimpanzees. And then also in the communities neighboring the sanctuary, we reach out to the women groups and encourage them to make crafts to earn a living. And these crafts are sold at the island shop at the sanctuary, and they get the money that comes out of these crafts that are sold to the visitors. But also, we get some friends from, especially from the US, who buy directly from these women groups. Visitors who come to visit us at the sanctuary, depending on the period they are spending at the sanctuary, we take them to these communities to see, to meet these women, but also to meet the children who are living on these islands. And some of them have picked interest and have started projects. One of the recent projects is the hospital project, which was started by a friend of Ngamba who came to visit and was taken there, and she picked the interest of establishing a hospital for these communities. Another project is the water project, and it was also started by a friend who came to visit Ngamba, and she started this project to provide clean water and safe water to these communities. Otherwise, before they used to take water directly from the lake, which predisposes them to schistosomiasis and other diseases that are related, that are waterborne. In addition to that, we also have a school program where we reach out to these schools in these neighboring islands. And we encourage these pupils, these schools, to plant trees, and then also to construct energy-saving stoves and minimize on the amount of charcoal that are used for cooking, hence saving the forests. We do receive some researchers because we have a research policy as the sanctuary, whereby we encourage people to do research, but only non-invasive research. They do behavioral research. So we get students from Max Planck Institute, which is found in Germany, and these students come twice in a year to do research on the chimpanzees. They are mostly psychology students, and they test the chimpanzees on different behaviors, like the ability of these chimps to work together. They do the same research in children, but this is done when they go back to Germany. As an organization, we don't have much support that we get from the government of Uganda. So our support depends on people who come to visit us, the visitors, and then also the donors. So I just call upon anyone who has anything to do for the sanctuary, for the chimpanzees at the sanctuary, to donate towards their welfare, but also encourage those institutions that are involved in primate research for possible collaboration, so that they can come and do research, but also pay us some little money as a research fee, and in that way they will be supporting the chimpanzees at the sanctuary. And then also we can be followed on social media, Facebook, on Twitter, and other social media platforms.
So that was Cécile Sarabian with Conservation Voices, giving us interviews with Dr. Lilly Ajarova and Dr. Titus Mukungu of the Ngamba Island Chimpanzee Sanctuary and Chimpanzee Trust. To find out more about their activities, do visit them online at www.ngambaisland.org. That's NGAMBAISLAND. Consider clicking on the donate button, or if you happen to be in the area, even better, do pop in and support them that way. So on behalf of Cécile, Conservation Voices, and the PrimateCast, I'd like to sincerely thank our guests for giving us their time and also their continued efforts in conservation of Ugandan wildlife. Until the next time, which I do promise is not going to be as far away as the last one, thanks for listening to the PrimateCast.
You have been listening to the PrimateCast, a podcast series dedicated to the study and conservation of primates around the world. Brought to you by the Centre for International Collaboration and Advanced Studies in Primatology of the Primate Research Institute of Kyoto University. Visit us online at www.cicaspr.u.ac.jp/news/podcasts and follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/theprimatecast and on Twitter at the PrimateCast.